This is our podcast, where we belly flop into the bouncy house of mystery, surrounded by conspiracies and unexplained phenomena, with theories so bizarre, they may actually make you say,
"Are they thinking with their butt?" Hey everybody, I'm Katie.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Stop Thinking with Your Butt.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, welcome back everybody. This time around, this episode...
Yeah, you're going to tell me something.
I'm going to tell you a tale. I'm going to learn you some knowledge. I'm going to learn you some things.
Should I get my blanket and a warm cocoa?
Yeah. You sleepy time tea? Yeah. No, I want you to be alert.
Oh.
I want you to be ninja ready. Yeah. We're going to be talking about doppelgangers. Because there's been a lot on social media, and what's the one thing we know about social media for certain?
Photoshop.
They ruin everything.
Oh, that too.
Right? It ruins everything.
What has been on social media?
I'll tell you a little bit about it as we go through. So my sources for this research project is Live About, Wikipedia, India Times, Vienna Express, Atlas Obscura, BBC's In-Depth Psychology, Queris, and more.
You know, I've had multiple times where people thought they saw my doppelganger.
You get that a lot.
I do get that a lot.
Okay, so here we go. And I'll tell you why they're stupid AF.
It's because of my beard.
Yeah, your beard's fantastic. I like decorating it for the holidays.
It is fun.
It's a lot of fun. What do you know about a doppelganger?
I would assume it is someone who looks exactly like you, whether they transform into you or they are just you, potentially from another interdimension.
Very good. So a doppelganger is the German word that translates as double walker or double goer.
I never knew it was German.
Oh, shut up.
What? Why do I have to know that?
Doppelganger? You didn't know that was German?
No, I didn't know that was
like
German.
The most German word.
Hey, I don't assume here.
You didn't know. Oh, goodness. Gosh. Okay.
Is that common knowledge?
Doppelganger. How does that?
Yeah, I get it.
Doppelganger.
But how am I supposed to know that?
Well, when you look
German?
at it, there's umlauts over the A.
Okay. Never saw that.
All right. Maybe it's just,
I just learned something.
Maybe it's just obvious to me because I took German for 5 years, so maybe it's just obvious because I've seen the language.
Babe,
so
just because it's obvious to you doesn't mean it's obvious to everyone, and that's why we're talking on the show.
That's true. That's why we're
so
here. Okay.
I'm sure there's other people who were in the same boat.
Yeah.
You feel me all. I got my supporters.
The same short boat.
Oh my gosh. We need a team, Chris.
The short boat that comes 30 minutes early. Okay. So a doppelganger.
Defend me.
A doppelganger isn't someone who looks like you.
Okay. What is it? Is you?
It is you. It is you. So people are on social media. They're like, I found my doppelganger. No.
It's not lookalikes.
It's not lookalikes. It's not, they call them twin strangers.
Okay.
So it's like people that you run into that they're not you, but you look uncannily like similar, eerily similar.
You hear all those random stories where two people were separated at birth. They're actually twins and they ran into each other.
Yeah. Okay. Stuff like that. Stuff like that happens. Are they doppelgangers? No, they're twins. Okay. They're not the same person. Okay. So a doppelganger is not someone that looks like you. It is you, like right down to the way you walk, talk, dress.
Same dimension or interdimension?
Thought process. We'll get there. They are you so much so that a friend or a relative would not know that they weren't talking to you because it is you. So even if you can prove that you weren't around when this person was talking to your double, they wouldn't believe you. They'd be like, I saw you.
So people actually have experiences of doppelgangers.
I'll tell you all about them.
Okay.
In fiction and mythology, a doppelganger is often portrayed as ghostly or paranormal phenomena, and they're usually seen as being like a harbinger of bad luck.
Yeah. It's like looking at the mirror.
What do you mean?
Well, you look in the mirror, attacks you.
Oh, I was going to say you look at the mirror and the mirror looks back.
No, it has a grin and you're not smiling.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, it's like evil. It's evil.
Yeah, so it's usually a harbinger of bad luck. Other traditions and stories equate the doppelganger as like an evil twin, but it's all very mystical.
Yeah.
Social media, I said they mess things up. Your twin strangers that you find on the street, they are not your doppelgangers. So
So I shouldn't bring them home.
No.
That's what you're saying.
Don't bring them home. So two people who cross paths that look eerily similar are not your doppelganger, no matter how similarly they appear in appearance or look in appearance. Even identical twins have things that are off about them. There's, one could say there are a slightly different. One may have a freckle in an unusual place, or one could be a millimeter taller. Even identical twins are not identical. Doppelgangers are you. They are you. Not someone that looks like you. They're you. So according to the both English and German folklore, seeing your double 3 times could mean death would soon follow.
3 times? So what if you just saw it once? You know what I'm saying? How many times do you have to? It's a rare occasion. How do they? Okay, sorry. I'll let you explain. 'Cause I got a bunch of questions on this one.
I know. I was like, this one's fun. This one's really neat. Okay. While the term doppelganger was coined in the late 18th century, myths of spirit doubles has persisted for thousands of years. So in German, it's the doppelganger. Irish, so in Ireland, they call it the fetch. And the fetch is described as an exact spectral double of a living human whose appearance is regarded as ominous. A sighting of a fetch usually means that the person it resembles will be soon experiencing death.
There you go. Awesome. Good job.
So, and then in Egyptian mythology, I talked a little bit about the Ka, and the Ka is the soul. It's a double of yourself. That's the one that goes to hell. So when your physical body dies, Ka, your exact replica in soul form, goes to hell.
Do you want to see my Ka?
Put your Ka away. So going back to the Egyptian mythology, there's also the Ba, which is
who makes these names?
It's a portion of the soul that is resembled as a human-headed bird entity, and so when the Ba and the Ka combine, the soul can travel to the world.
That means stupid in Japanese, by the way.
Does it really?
Baka.
I know you know. Oh,
I know. Right, there you go.
I knew you. Just stop being so. I'm embarrassed.
I'm gonna get so many supporters on my side.
You are, I know. Team Chris. So when the Ba and the Ka combined, Baka, the soul can travel between worlds. And so that's kind of like where you would see like some spiritual, like astral beings on this physical plane. And then in Britain, they use the term wraith. But wraith was actually developed in Scotland. So it's a Scot word for ghost, specter, or apparition.
Yeah.
It appeared in Scotland's Romanticism literature and acquired the more general or figurative sense of potent or ominous.
They're also D&D characters.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Monsters.
Yeah, and they're also in Harry Potter. They're in Harry Potter also.
But they aren't like doppelganger type of things, right? They're just spirits. They don't look like you or anything. If
someone were to see a doppelganger in one of these locations, they would call it by one of these things.
Okay, because the rate that made it seem like it was just more of a spirit.
That's what I thought, but when I was looking it up, it was saying that, like, so if I was in Britain, and I saw myself, someone would be like, "Ooh, you saw a wraith." So maybe it's like an equivalence.
Oh, I guess I would have a thing against German.
Oh, maybe.
They probably just don't want to use the term.
There's a lot of hard feelings out there.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
So Norse mythology.
Oh, nice.
Norse. This is where you like Norse. I like Norse too. Vardagur. Vardagur. Vardagur.
Vardagur.
Vardagur. I am not saying that right. If you're Norse, write us in. Vardagur is a ghostly double who is seen performing the person's action in advance.
Oh.
So this was saying, and I thought, I'm like, it would actually creep me the crap out. Yourself would come into an area and do something and leave. And then you would really come in and do the same thing.
Huh. Okay.
So it's like,
but you wouldn't run into it though.
no,
Someone
and
else
you
would see
wouldn't.
it.
Everybody else would see it, but you.
You're like, weren't you just here?
No. And then in Finland, they call it the.
Is that a good sign back then for the Norse?
They all see it as a sign of impending doom.
Oh, I was hoping that you can they're going to show you something like not to do or something.
No.
Like they go walk in the street and they get hit. Ah! And then you're about to walk in the street and someone says, "Don't walk in the street. I just saw you get hit." Or something.
Like a foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep that little nugget in your noggin.
Done.
So Finland calls it the Itsinen, or first comer. In literature, people's doppelgangers are often portrayed as the alter ego.
Yeah, they have the reverse personality.
Yeah, so like American Psycho.
Yeah.
There's examples of doppelgangers in literature that explore human duality, where so it's there's one person and then the same person, but it's their underlying dark side. It's their bad self.
Yeah. A lot of horror movies.
There might be a double who is there to foil the protagonist's plans. Hans Christian Andersen, famous folklorist, he wrote Little Mermaid. So in 1840s.
Still don't know him, but
Oh God, you know the Little Mermaid.
I know the Little Mermaid. I just don't know him.
Okay, he's written a ton of things that you would recognize.
We'll probably recognize him.
So Hans Christian Andersen in 1847 wrote a fairy tale called Skyggen, or The Shadow. And in this fairy tale, a man's shadow separates from his body and gradually becomes his walking double, demonstrating the exact opposite physical and moral traits, and eventually replaces him entirely.
There's a couple movies about that.
That's
too.
pretty good. Yeah, I was like, it's pretty neat. And then there's also a novella by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It's called The Double, and it presents a doppelganger as a bold, assertive reflection of a mild, antisocial government clerk. So
that sounds pretty lame.
The clerk is mild manner, and then the double is bold and a ladies' man. So the double encroaches on the clerk's personal affairs over the course of the story, driving him mad by the story's end.
I was going to say, it's like that horrible Spider-Man movie where Toby Keith or whichever, when he turns into
Toby Keith, isn't that a country singer? Oh Toby Maguire. He got his banjo.
His American way.
Yeah.
No, but so yes, the Toby Maguire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when he gets
he gets confidence or something,
yeah.
Right?
Infected with confidence.
Yeah. Well, because the Spider-Man is just wimpy, right? Just in general, and so he has this swag on now.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. First, I was thinking Fight Club, but Fight Club, it's like schizophrenia. It's two different people. Anyway, but American Psycho would be.
You throw out some spoiler alerts.
No.
Oh my gosh. For those who haven't watched Fight Club.
But American Psycho would be a good reference, right? It's been a long time since we've seen that. Anyway. Edgar Allan Poe also wrote about a doppelganger.
Okay.
He has a short story called William Wilson. William Wilson is a boy attending school in England, and he meets a child with the same name and appearance as himself. And the double is a source of frustration from the start and appears throughout Wilson's life to thwart all of his ambitions. In this case, the original Wilson's goals are pretty nefarious.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost a good thing that they're being thwarted. But anyway, so the original Wilson is getting peeved, and he ends up stabbing the double, but it's himself who bleeds. Mm-hmm. So it goes to the whole he killed himself, really. It's because it's a reflection of himself.
Yeah.
But those are all examples in literature, all confirmed, made up. But
do people actually think that these exist, or is this just folklore?
Those are all stories.
Okay.
But what about the ones that people have witnessed for themselves?
Oh, you have examples of those?
Or are so strongly perceived to be true by intelligent people.
I don't think I've ever heard an example
of a real one.
Do
you want a bunch of them?
Well, I'm assuming
by famous people.
Sure. I don't know why famous. That almost deep.
Well,
credit,
okay. So. A lot of these are authors, which is interesting. And you're not gonna know. You're not gonna know any of them, but I know all of them just because I took one semester of English literature, and now I'm a
No, you're
literary major master. Okay. So in 1612, English poet Jean Donne had been visiting a friend in Paris. There was a dinner party.
Mm-hmm.
And during the dinner party, Jean Donne found himself sitting alone for a brief moment. And his wife, who didn't travel with him, had walked through the room twice and was carrying a dead baby in her arms. John shared his experience with his friend and fellow dinner guest, Sir Robert, who recounts his experience. So Sir Robert finds him.
Mm-hmm.
Jean Donne tells him what had just happened. And then...
So he just saw it. He didn't like interact with it or anything.
Well...
It's almost kind of like not a mirage or you know what I'm saying?
Like a hallucination.
A hallucination or a vision type of thing more than a doppelganger, but okay.
So his friend, Sir Robert, talked with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Sir Robert couldn't kick it from his mind. And he ends up sharing the story with a doctor, Dr. Rising. And he ends up writing a book about it. And
was that the doctor's first and last name, or is that the last name?
Risen?
Mm-hmm.
Rising.
That's his first and last name.
Uh-huh.
I just want to make sure I don't
Rizan.
I just want to make sure nothing got over me.
Oh no!
Because I'm like, that's a weird name.
It's unfortunate.
So
Rising.
That's intentional.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty messed up. So Dr. Rising states that this story, he says, a person of honor recounted this story, and it was told with such circumstances and such asseveration that I verily believe he that told it to me, and he himself believed it to be true.
Yeah, I'm sure he did believe it to be true.
So I'm going to tell you. So
a lot of crazy people out
this
there.
is okay. Keep in mind, this is 1612, so the language is going to be old timey, but it gave me chills. So I'm going to read it to you the way it was written.
Okay.
So this is the encounter with Sir Robert and Jean Donne, who saw his wife.
Keep in mind, I have nerves of steel, so.
Yeah. Okay,
Let's
so
do this.
2 days after their arrival there, Mr. Donne was left alone in that room in which Sir Robert and he and some other friends had dinner together. To this place Sir Robert returned within half an hour, and as he left, so he had found Mr. Donne alone, but in such a state, so altered as to his looks, as amazed Sir Robert to behold him, and so much that he earnestly desired Mr. Donne to declare befallen him in the short time of his absence. I know.
I'm not.
Okay, not following.
I'm not following
this
at
is
all.
Okay.
But I'm listening.
So they were having a dinner party. Everyone left the room. For about 30 minutes, Jean Donne was alone. Sir Robert comes back and he's like, what? Like, you look wrong. Like, what's going on? To which Mr. Donne was not able to make a present answer. So like, he couldn't really like.
Well, I get that you
But
can't answer.
After a long perplexing pause, did at last he say, I have seen a dreadful vision since I saw you. I have seen my dear wife pass by me twice through this room, with her hair hanging about her shoulders and a dead child in her arms. This I have seen since I saw you. To which Sir Robert replied, sure, sir, you have slept since I saw you, and this is the result of some melancholy dream, which I desire you to forget, for you are now awake.
Yeah.
To which Mr. Donne replied, I cannot be surer that I now live than that I have not slept since I saw you, and I am assured that at her second appearing, she stopped, looked me in the face, and vanished.
And that got you shields?
Because at that same time, his wife was having a stillborn baby miles away.
Oh, you didn't tell me that piece.
So that very night, miles away, Jean Donne's pregnant wife gave birth to a stillborn.
That's sad.
Isn't that very sad? But very ominous at the same time.
Yeah.
She could not have been there.
Yeah, of course.
He did not. He swears up and down he didn't fall asleep. So how is she there?
Well, I guess that would be a doppelganger case.
And then there's another tale. This one's kind of interesting, and it's really short. I wish I had more information on it. Catherine the Great.
Okay.
If you haven't watched The Great, huzzah! Watch it. It's amazing. So there's a tale that recounts that Catherine the Great's servants saw her sitting on her throne, but she was also sleeping at the same time. So they woke her up, and the Empress ordered the imposter to be shot. And they went and they couldn't find her. But then a few weeks later, she died of a stroke.
That matches the whole
If you
see it.
Yeah. But at the same time, though, she didn't see it, but somebody else saw it. So,
yeah.
Okay.
But same thing with them entering the store. Like, you may not see it all the time, but others.
Right. Okay, so this is, another famous author, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe.
Johann sounds familiar.
No, it's not Johann Sebastian Bach.
Oh, well then, nope.
So Goethe, there's the Goethe Museum. I'm saying Goethe. Other people say Goethe. It's just it's just the dialect, but it's Goethe. So Goethe, one of the world's most famous authors and poets. He was the author of Faust. So many things reference this. And there's songs about it. It's the man who sells his soul to the devil. Okay, you're blank stares. Okay, so Goethe, and actually,
Georgia.
Yeah, maybe. So Goethe, I actually got to know him on a personal level while I was researching this.
Oh, good.
He was obsessed with love. He was chronically falling in and out of love. He just loved love.
Oh, that's nice.
With that comes affairs with married women.
Yeah.
Love in wrong places.
I can't commit myself to just one. I love so much.
Right. So throughout his entire life, he had a barrage of failed romances.
Yeah, he had love. He was good with love, but sucked on commitment.
His greatest love, one of his greatest loves.
Art.
He was so many great things. That's why these writers back in the day were not just writers. They were painters.
Alcoholics. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, you're in an awe moment. I didn't
syphilis beds.
Didn't mean to pull you out of there.
Syphilitic. They were philanthropists and mathematicians and astrologers and art. They were all the things, and probably that too. But so he was also a great many other things. So he was highly respected in society. That's besides the point. In 1770, after 10 months in this relationship that ends up being his greatest love ever, he doesn't really say why. He just ends this relationship with this woman named Frederica Brion.
Okay.
And Frederica is devastated. She's crying. So as he's riding away on horseback, she's weeping. And he accounts that as he's leaving her, he passes himself on the road. In his exact quote, he wrote this in his autobiography. He says, "Those were painful days, the memory of which has remained with me. When I reached her my hand from my horse, the tears stood in her eyes, and I felt very uneasy. I now rode along the footpath toward Drusenheim, and here one of the most singular forebodings took possession of me. I saw my own figure coming toward me on horseback, and on the same road, attired in a dress which I had never worn. It was pike gray and somewhat of gold. As soon as I shook myself out of this dream, the figure had entirely disappeared. It is strange, however, that 8 years afterward, I found myself on that very road to pay one more visit to Frederica in the dress of which I had dreamed and which I wore not from choice but by accident."
So it's almost like a future.
It's he saw his future.
Like deja
self.
vu to an extent.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. I'm oh.
So he didn't die. So that's.
But he didn't die. He lived a very long life. I think he lived into his 80s. The last I saw, he was 70 something, and I think he lived 9 years. I don't know. So either late 70s or early 90s. And then this one, Percy Bysshe, Percy Shelley, the author of Prometheus Unbound, claimed to have seen his own doppelganger before his death in 1822. His wife, Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein.
Oh.
There you go. Later recalled in a letter to a friend. So she's famous.
I did not know that Frankenstein was written by a woman.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
Not just vaginas with legs.
They could write? No, stop. No, I never knew that. I didn't pay attention to who the author was.
Mary Shelley, a woman, wrote Frankenstein.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. It's the name of the doctor.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on.
I know that.
No, so many people get that messed up. So because Mary Shelley ends up being so famous, a lot of her letters that she corresponded with other people were saved.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have the actual letter that she wrote that explained this doppelganger experience that her husband had. So in her letter that she wrote to a friend, she says that Percy had visions of strangling her and had mentioned an episode in which his double approached him. And she goes into her letter and she quotes, "And talking it over the next morning, he told me that he had many visions lately. He had seen the figure of himself, which met him as he walked on the terrace, and said to him, 'How long do you mean to be content?'"
How would you feel if I told you that? I had dreams of choking you out. That's horrible.
They don't stay married much longer.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, that's not good. And if I told you I had a dream that I saw myself and I was contemplating how long I'm going to be content with this marriage.
Isn't that kind of sad?
You know what? You know what could end the marriage?
You saying that?
Choking.
Choking.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Okay. This one, even people who don't know much about doppelgangers
Probably a lot.
know this story.
I
Okay, you don't know. Okay.
I didn't know that story. Well, I don't know
This
much about it.
story is bananas. Emily Sagi. She was born in 1813, France. She lived a quiet, normal life and eventually became a school teacher. She was attractive and smart and in generally well-liked positions with the students and staff at the schools that she taught. But I said schools.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though she was well-liked and seemingly did a good job, she couldn't keep a position anywhere. So during her 16 years stretch of teaching, she worked at 18 different schools.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Right? Like a lot.
That is a lot.
And was finally at Pension Van Nouvelle.
I just want you to know that after this episode,
Mm-hmm.
never make fun of how I say things.
Never! I promise
you give me
nothing.
such a hard time. And
I promise nothing.
I
These
am-
are different languages.
do you hear how supportive I am? I'm just like in here going, you can do it. You can say it.
I
That's in
will
my head.
always make fun of you.
I'm sure you will.
That's how you know I care. So she's finally at this law school. It's her 19th workplace in France. Actually, excuse me. It turns out it's modern day Latvia. So whatever it was in 18...
Not France, but
Yeah.
Latvia used to be, I think, Russia.
Yeah. So whatever Latvia is, or now whatever Latvia was then.
Yeah, it's probably Russia.
Okay. So eventually at the school, it became clear why Emily couldn't hold a position for very long.
Because her doppelganger was doing horrible stuff.
She had a doppelganger. It was a ghostly twin that would make itself visible to others at random moments.
Mm-hmm.
The first time it was spotted was when she had been teaching a class of 17 girls. She had been normally writing on the board, her back facing the girls, when out of nowhere, a projection-like entity that looked just like her appeared, stood beside her, and imitated her every movement.
And the girl saw that?
All 17 girls saw it.
How many times does this happen?
Okay, here's another one. Since the first sighting, Emily's apparent twin was spotted quite frequently by others at the school. She was even seen sitting beside her while Emily ate silently. She would imitate Emily while she did her everyday work. She would sit in class while Emily taught. One time, as Emily was helping one of her students dress for an event, the doppelganger appeared. The student, as she looked down to see what Emily was doing to the edge of her dress, saw the doppelganger and fainted immediately.
What would you do if you saw your someone mimicking or your doppelganger mimicking what you do?
The problem is Emily never saw it.
Yeah, but what would you do if you did see it?
I'd poop.
Well, if it was just
Right then and there.
mimicking you, would that be a threat? Would you be like concerned, or would you be inquisitive? Would you be?
I would be curious. I have to think. Okay, I'd be a lot of emotions. I just have to figure out what emotion would come out first. I think I'd be curious. Okay, I'd be brave first, and then I would crumple like a pile of bricks. What would you do?
I would be curious. I'd be inquisitive. I would be like, moving my body in certain things.
Oh, to see if it would move you?
Yeah.
Or move?
I think I would just test stuff.
Yeah.
While I was there. I don't think I would be like, or anything.
You'd pull down your pants and see if your double penis looked like your normal
gosh,
penis.
What? No.
You know you would.
No.
Yes.
If it's just like, well, that would be, no. No, but I would try curious if it was mimicking me from like a different interdimension type of thing. Or if it was like trying to interact with me. Right? Mm-hmm. Or I would try to interact with it to see if it did anything. But I wouldn't like, I don't know if I would be like, or
would
is
you
it
try
like
to communicate with it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would be inquisitive about it instead of
So the most talked about sighting
or pull my pants down. What is this?
Double penis. So the most talked about sighting at the school, and this was kind of like the final straw. Emily was seen by an entire class of 42 students. They witnessed her out in the garden gardening while they were inside learning how to sew. Because again, this is the 1800s. So they're inside learning how to sew and Emily is outside tending to the garden. The supervisor of the class walks out for a little bit and Emily walks in and sits down in her place. The students don't think much of it until one of them notices that Emily's still in the garden and they can see her, but they can also see her sitting in the chair. So some of the girls were terrified and some of the girls were really curious and they went up and they touched the doppelganger and found that their hands could move through it, but it felt like spider webs.
Yeah, again, curious.
Yeah. So when Emily was asked about this, she was at a loss because she had never seen it herself. And it was essentially ruining her life because this ethereal entity was scaring the girls. And the girls would tell their parents, and then the parents would pull them from school. So eventually the schools would have to let her go. She wasn't doing anything, but they couldn't keep, she was too much of a liability to keep around.
Can you imagine? I'm like, I would sue the crap.
Well, it's the 1800s. What do you do?
I feel like they wouldn't believe that. I don't know. You're really going to fire me because of some high school girls making some stuff up?
So this is interesting because it comes up in all the cases. Emily herself, she never saw herself and she never felt different, but everyone says...
Do you think she believes it?
I don't know. It never really said if she believed it or not. I was trying to find out if she got married and like had a family, but I couldn't find anything. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But everyone was saying that whenever they saw the doppelganger, that Emily, the real Emily, looked worn out and lethargic. And then when the doppelganger was gone, she would like perk up right away.
Ooh,
but she herself never noticed
projection.
That's a theory. So after the incident in the garden, so Emily does say that during that time with the 42 girls in the sewing room, while she was out in the garden, she had a strong urge to go into the classroom and sit, but she just didn't. But then her doppelganger showed up and did.
She projected her own ability in there. Maybe that's what it was.
So isn't that interesting? Okay. Some people have a theory that this doppelganger comes out to do the task that Emily herself was doing in an alternate dimension, where she had made the choice a different way than in the real world. Yeah.
The other dimension, she's sitting in the chair. The other one, she's gardening.
Isn't that interesting? Okay. In 1884, issue of Sunny South tells of a county clerk from Cahaba.
Okay.
I'm probably saying that right. So a clerk from this town contracted malaria. One night, shivering and unable to sleep, he saw the shadow of a man enter his room. As the visitor approached his bed, the clerk saw in the dim light that it was himself. It freaks him out. And so it happens again.
But what did he do? Did it just go away after that?
When the same incident occurred the next night, the clerk called for two of his friends to come sit by his side and kind of like be witness to it.
And he did have malaria, so he may have to be a little...
So maybe, yeah. So anyway, so he asks his two friends to come sit with him.
What year was this?
Watch. This is 1884.
1880. Okay, so because there are some malaria pills
that make you hallucinate, but I don't think they had malaria pills at this time.
But there are some of those.
I think this is the time still where they just got to get the bad blood out.
Yeah, put some leeches on you.
Yeah. So the friends kept watch as he slept, and they were startled when late in the night, the clerk himself
Appeared.
stepped into the candlelight, but he was also in bed.
Yeah.
The men approached the double, which retreated to the shadows and then disappeared. They never saw the visitor again, and the clerk died.
Oh, so he did die.
He succumbed to his illnesses soon after the encounter. This is going to mess you up. Ready for this one?
Go ahead.
Abraham Lincoln saw his doppelganger.
Before he died.
Mm-hmm.
Of course
He
did.
saw it 3 times.
And here, walk and tell me.
And I can quote him.
Walk me through it.
Here we go. So soon after his election in 1860, Abraham Lincoln saw his reflection doubled in a mirror. With one face. Okay,
Funhouse mirror.
I know. Back in the day, mirrors were backlined with silver. And if you've seen an old mirror, there's like space between the outer layer and the inner layer. And sometimes they give off like shadowy or like milky appearance. So I'm like, maybe it's just a crappy mirror. But this is what he goes to say. He's looking in the mirror and he says that he sees a face directly besides the other, but it's a ghostly pallor. He tries to show his wife because it appears 2 more times, but he can never get her in time. Mm-hmm. So Lincoln tells his wife, Mary Todd, that he saw himself, and this is quote, nearly at full length, but my face had 2 separate and distinct images. He noticed that although the images were nearly identical, one was a little paler, say 5 shades than the other. End quote. His wife was said to be very worried and told Lincoln she believed that the paleness of half the dual image was a bad omen, which meant that Lincoln would serve his first term in full, but would not live to finish his second.
Or it's a representation of the Civil War.
Oh.
Split, 2 face.
Split in 2. Yeah, but unfortunately, Lincoln was assassinated before he completed his first term. So Mary Todd's prediction that he would serve his first term but not live through the second one was incorrect. Yeah.
Of course.
What does this all mean? So some people say that if you specifically see your doppelganger yourself 3 times, that the end is coming, that you will be ill or that you will die. So psychiatry explains this as heutoscopy. I
Waiting
that
for
one
it.
up. So this term is for people who hallucinate seeing their own body at a distance. And it can occur as a symptom in schizophrenia and epilepsy. And it's classified as an autoscopic phenomenon. Autoscopic phenomena are psychic, illusory visual experiences consisting of the perception of the image of one's own body or face within space, either from an internal point of view, so you can see yourself looking out, or you can see yourself from an internal point of view looking in. So internal and external.
Yeah. That's associated with trauma, though, not just with...
Well, yeah. So the simplest form of an autoscopic phenomenon involves feeling the presence of someone next to you without seeing someone there. So that feeling like, I feel like I'm being watched.
Yeah.
That's an autoscopic phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you are being watched.
By the NSA.
Yeah.
Seriously.
The doppelganger effect takes this phenomenon to a step further. It's saying that a person may hallucinate that they are actually seeing and interacting with another version of themselves. So that's part of that whole autoscopic phenomena. But it says probably the most widely experienced and best known form of autoscopic phenomena is the out-of-body experience.
Yeah. Boom.
During a classic full-blown out-of-body experience, people report leaving their physical body and seeing it from an outside perspective, say from the ceiling looking down.
Also known as astral projection.
Astral projection.
You're welcome.
This was interesting. In 2002, a neurologist named Blanke,
Blinky?
Blanke. It's either blank or blanky.
Let's go with Blinky. Just sounds...
I was reading it as blank, and then I'm like, oh crap, there's an E on the end.
Blanque.
Blanke? I don't know. Okay. This neurologist managed to create an out-of-body experience repeatedly on a 43-year-old woman. He was treating her for a drug-resistant form of epilepsy, and she had volunteered to go through this experiment process with him.
Mm-hmm.
So during the procedure, Blank found that he could cause the woman to report some really weird sensations by stimulating a single electrode placed on the right angular gyrus of a small region towards the back of the skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know that part. So when simulating this particular part of her brain, she reported a sinking into the bed feeling or falling from a height.
Yeah.
So like that startled, like right when you're falling asleep, that was with a low current. When he increased the amperage, she reported, I see myself laying in bed from above. Isn't that interesting? So she's awake, telling this. And he was able to repeat this process with her multiple times.
And when she saw herself, was she able to use more details, or did she just think?
That's the only report I got. Yeah. I don't know. But so despite the vividness of the hallucinations, it's theorized that it's caused by malfunctions in this brain mechanism, which is like the root cause of all this like hallucinatory doppelganger result. Doppelgangers would be seen by someone who's suffering damage, disease, or malformation to that small lower region of the brain. But that doesn't account for, in Emily Segi's case, when she didn't see it, but everybody else saw it.
I think there could be multiple things, or
yeah.
whichever,
So I'm like, maybe some people are experiencing it this way, but maybe but now
some would say that out of body experience, or that you've seen yourself from a different area or whichever, is also similar to a universal consciousness.
Oh yeah,
consciousness, right?
One mind.
Yeah. So especially if you do certain electrodes or whatever, you can mimic, or even in meditation and some other things, you can go beyond your physical body.
Yeah. So some people say that you see your doppelganger, you are actually seeing a glimpse of an alternate reality. So it's like if you had made a different choice. So maybe the shadow that you're seeing is you who had made a different decision.
Well, and that's why when we say that these people are identical in everything, it can't be in everything, because it's not the same behavior. Because if this is an interdimension type of thing, they make different decisions than you.
Yeah.
Right? So they may not have the same personality or the same thought process. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. And someone actually explains it pretty well in just a minute here. So this is now the unconfirmed
shocker
scientific explanation, because it hasn't been proven yet.
Yeah.
But it's a theory. We exist in a parallel universe in which everything in this world is replicated in other dimensions.
Yeah, like vibrations.
At certain times, we are able to experience the fourth dimension. This would explain the doppelgangers and deja vu. After all, it is highly unlikely that we're alone in this universe, or even that this is the only universe in existence. Many experts believe that we are just one of many. In fact, some physicists have theorized that there could be an infinite universe existing next to each other in a sort of gigantic patchwork quilt, that the Big Bang led to the creation of such parallel universes which now hover just outside of our own. Columbia University physicist Brian Greene, author of the book The Hidden Reality, Parallel Universe and the Deep Laws of the Cosmos, says the latter theory supports the idea that we all have a doppelganger.
Well, in that theory, you would have way more than a doppelganger. You have almost an infinite number.
Well, so he says the argument for doppelgangers is pretty straightforward. Assuming that space goes on infinitely far in a finite chunk, matter can only arrange itself in a finite number of ways, like cards in a deck.
Okay.
You and I are just configuration of particles, so sooner or later, we're going to repeat. Matter can almost repeat its configuration, but not repeat it identically. Your physical body may repeat, but your mental configuration can be a little bit different. So there might be an evil version of you.
Well, I was just about to say, I would like to see all those infinite number of my wives coming over. But if they don't have your personality or they're the evil you, then screw them.
Yeah. You say the sweetest things sometimes.
You're welcome.
You don't treat your other wives so nice.
No, you're the best.
Yeah. So if you think about it, it's like you shuffle the cards. There's you have to shuffle them a lot, but eventually you might get the same configuration more than once. You know?
Yeah, but
that's what it was like kind of hinting at. Or you might be so close, but an evil version of yourself.
Yeah. I don't think this phenomenon happens. I think it's more of the something going on with your brain and it's tweaking something.
You think so? You don't think that there's multiple timelines or multiple
I think
realities?
That you would have, there's no scenario or examples of that in what you kind of brought. And I think there could, but again, I think if we're here in this one, then this is what we are tuned to. So you don't think that it's possibly the fourth dimension, like being a thin layer that at some point it's weak enough that you can see yourself? No, because why would I be there? I may be in a different country or a different, I don't know.
Well, yeah, but if there's infinite timelines and infinite story, like in 20,000 you can be in the same place at the same time, and in like 30,000 you could be on the moon.
Nah, I'm not.
Eating chili.
Eating chili. I think it's more think of it like the schizo where they may see things. I remember doing some research and this person was saying that they're very happy that they have cell phones now because he would have full blown conversations with people. Then he would put the camera setting on his phone and look and realize there's no one there. He never showed up on his camera and the person he's talking to was only in his head.
What?
Yes, because schizos, they sometimes may interact and think that they're actual people, right?
Why haven't you told me that before?
Saving it.
Yeah. But, no. I mean, so some of it is explained.
I think it's the brain thing. I think there's definitely some outer body stuff that can happen.
Well, with the case of John Donne and his wife appearing with the stillborn, I kind of feel like maybe that was...
Or she was having something that she projected.
I was going to say, I was like, maybe some of this is astral projection.
Yeah,
or like
I don't know
you
if
think or hope so hard that you make yourself appear somewhere else.
I don't buy the doppelganger piece.
Yeah. Or I was thinking, I'm like, well, maybe there was like a spirit or soul that was trying to communicate to him that she was in peril. So.
Or it could be someone who can just shape change.
Yeah. Oh. This other dimensions and other timelines is also a theory of where ghosts come from, is that they're actually beings on other planes that are coming through weak points in the universe. Anyway, so other explanations for what doppelgangers could be: alien intervention, clones, a mirror universe, or magic.
Magic. Nice. I feel like it would just be longer since it was so short, or it fades back into the shadows or all that stuff. That's why if you're doing the doppelganger piece or some of these other ones, it is a set. Here it is, physically touch type of thing. Not so much as just a vision. Yeah. In my opinion. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that.
So that's that. I thought,
well, I'm glad if you ran into your doppelganger, you would poop yourself.
Yeah.
That's good. What would you do?
I would void my bowels.
What if you saw me sleeping in the bed and then you saw me also sitting on the couch?
Oh, I'd be mad both ways. I'd be like, I can't believe you're sleeping without me. And then I come out and be like, you're watching TV again?
I can't win. You can't win. That's about right.
I'd wake up one of you to mow the lawn.
Man.
And the other one, I don't know, something. Insert chore.
No. Thanks for sharing that. I was totally thinking of like just a shapeshifter that can go to you or be anyone and kind of go from there. But wasn't thinking of the whole outer body piece.
Well, I knew that doppelgangers were supposed to be yourself, but then all these freaking people on social media are like, look, my doppelganger. And I'm like, I don't think there's
and my time traveling doppelganger.
Yeah. I met Ed Sheeran. And it's just some guy that looks like him, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I read that. That was really fascinating to me. That was pretty cool. But anyway, so we need to work on better sign-offs, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, see you later, flapjacks. Talk to you soon.
Weirdos.
Yes. Conspirators.
Conspirators.
Yeah. I don't know. So if you have suggestions for good sign-offs, let us know. Looking for a catchphrase.
Nailed it. No, we'll figure something out.
That was a good one. Yeah, we needed a good one. Anyway, today's takeaway, it's not Ed Sheeran. All right, everybody.
Every time.
Take care. Out.